The stars shimmered like diamonds on black velvet as the USV Horizon glided through space. Commander Frank Williams stood on the bridge, his blue eyes fixed on the view screen. The newly discovered Zoltarian system loomed ahead, its twin suns casting a purple glow on the main planet. "How much longer until we reach orbit?" Frank asked, straightening his uniform. Lisa Collins looked up from her navigation console. Her fingers danced across the glowing panel. "About 3 hours, Commander. All systems normal." Frank nodded. This mission meant everything to Earth. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. A chance for trade, knowledge, and perhaps friendship among the stars. "Any response to our greeting messages?" Frank asked. Diane Miller shook her head. The communications officer had been sending peace signals for days. "Nothing yet, sir. But our scans show they have the technology to receive them." Alan Porter joined them on the bridge. The ship's xenobiologist carried a tablet filled with notes. "Based on our long-range scans, the Zoltarians have a Level 3 civilization. They've mastered space travel but haven't expanded beyond their solar system. Maybe they're shy," Lisa joked, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. Frank smiled. His crew was the best Earth had to offer, trained for years for this moment. "Keep sending the greeting message. We don't want to surprise them." The next 3 hours passed slowly. The bridge crew checked and rechecked their systems. No one wanted to make a mistake during humanity's first meeting with the Zoltarians. "Entering orbit now," Lisa announced. "Standard approach pattern." Frank took a deep breath. "Diane, send the final greeting message. Make it clear we come in peace." "Message sent, sir," Diane confirmed. The view screen showed the beautiful blue-green planet below. Cities sparkled on the surface. Satellites orbited like tiny moons. Ellen pointed at the screen. "Look at those structures. Their architecture is amazing." A soft peep came from Lisa's console. "Commander, I'm detecting an energy buildup on the planet's surface." Her voice grew tense. It's pointed at us." Before Frank could respond, a bright beam shot from the planet's surface. It struck the horizon with tremendous force. The ship rocked violently. Alarms blared. "Shields down to 60%, shouted the tactical officer. "Minor damage to decks 3 and 4. "Back us off," Frank ordered. "Defensive posture only." Lisa worked frantically at her console. "Engines responding sluggishly, sir. That beam affected our systems." "Incoming transmission," Diane called out, her face pale. "Putting it on screen." The view screen flickered. A tall figure appeared. Its skin was gray-blue with scale-like patterns. Large yellow eyes glared at them. "Humans," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computers. "You attack our defense network and then pretend innocence. We monitored your weapons charging before you fired." Frank stepped forward. "There's been a mistake. We couldn't fire any weapons. We come in peace." The alien made a sharp gesture. "Lies. Our sensors detected your energy weapon activating. You struck first." "Please," Frank insisted. "Check your readings again. We only sent communication signals." "Silence," the alien commander hissed. "Your ship is disabled. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction." The transmission ended. Frank turned to his crew. "Battle stations, but no one fires unless I give the order. This is a misunderstanding." 3 large Zoltarian ships appeared around them. Their sleek shapes reminded Frank of sharks circling prey. "They're locking tractor beams," Lisa reported. "We can't break free with our damaged engines." Frank watched as the Zoltarian ships pulled them toward a massive space station. "Everyone stay calm. Our mission is still peace. We'll sort this out." Hours later, Frank and his senior crew sat in a bare metal cell. Their uniforms had been taken. The guards had separated them from the rest of the crew. "They think we attacked them," Ellen whispered. "But why?" Frank rubbed his temples. "Something triggered their defense systems. They believe we fired first." Lisa leaned against the cold wall. "How do we prove we didn't?" Frank looked at each of his crew members. Their faces showed worry, but also determination. We find the truth, and we make them listen. He gazed out the small window at the alien world that had become their prison. Our mission hasn't changed. This is still about peace. Frank stood before the Zeltarian High Command, his wrists bound by glowing energy cuffs. 5 tall aliens sat behind a curved metal table, their yellow eyes fixed on him. The largest one in the center wore a silver collar that marked him as Supreme Commander Vrax. "Human, you will answer for your attack on our defense system," Vrax said. His translator made his voice sound flat and cold. Frank kept his back straight. "We did not attack. We were sending greeting messages only." Vrax tapped a screen, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed the USV Horizon approaching the planet. A bright flash came from the ship, followed by the beam from the planet's surface. "Our records show you fired first," Vrax said. "The evidence is clear." Frank stared at the hologram. "That's not what happened. Something is wrong with this recording." A guard struck Frank's shoulder. "You will show respect to the High Command." In a holding cell 1 level below, Lisa pressed her ear against an air vent. She could hear faint voices from a nearby room where the Zeltarians had taken their equipment for study. "Ellen," she whispered, "help me reach that panel." Ellen cupped his hands, making a step for Lisa. She climbed up and pried open a small maintenance panel near the ceiling. Behind it was a tangle of wires and light tubes. "What are you looking for?" Diane asked from her spot by the door, keeping watch. Lisa smiled as she found a familiar connection. The Zeltarians use a similar data transfer system to ours. If I can tap into it. Her fingers worked quickly, connecting and disconnecting various wires. A small screen on the wall flickered to life. Lines of alien text scrolled past. "Can you read that?" Alan asked. Lisa shook her head. "Not all of it. But these are system logs. I'm looking for... there." She pointed to a section of data. "These are sensor readings from when we approached. Look at this energy signature here and here." Diane joined them. "That's not from our ship. The frequency is all wrong." Lisa nodded. "Exactly. Something else was there. Something that fired at their defense system and made it look like we did it." Back in the High Command chamber, Frank faced questioning from each Zeltarian leader. "Why would humans travel so far just to attack us?" asked a female Zeltarian with blue markings on her face. Frank took a deep breath. "We wouldn't. We came to make peaceful contact, to learn and share knowledge." Another Zeltarian leaned forward. 73 cycles ago, our colony on Zelta Minor was destroyed by unknown attackers. No warnings, no demands, just destruction. Many believe it was the first sign of your species." Frank's eyes widened. "That's impossible. Humans hadn't developed deep space travel 73 years ago. We couldn't have reached your colony." Vrax made a dismissive gesture. "Yet here you are now, attacking without provocation." "Our scans were routine," Frank explained. "We meant no harm." A sudden commotion at the door interrupted them. A Zeltarian officer rushed in and whispered to Vrax. The Supreme Commander's expression darkened. "Take the human away," Vrax ordered. "The trial will continue tomorrow." Guards led Frank back to the cell where his crew waited. Lisa quickly hid the makeshift connection she had created. "What happened?" Frank asked once the guards left. Lisa moved close. "We found something. When our ship scanned their defense system, it triggered an automated response. But there was another energy signature present. Someone else was there. Frank. Someone who wanted this conflict to happen." Frank's mind raced. "Do we have proof?" "Not enough," Lisa admitted. "The data is partial, but I'm certain of it." Alan sat on a bench against the wall. "It doesn't matter. The trial is just for show. I overheard guards talking. They've already decided to send us to a mining colony for life." Diane looked up from the small window. "And Earth has no idea what's happened to us. When they lose contact, They'll send another ship, Frank finished grimly. Right into the same trap. Lisa gripped Frank's arm. There's more. The Zeltarians are preparing for war. They think we're the advance scouts for an invasion fleet. Frank looked at each of his crew members. Then we need to escape. Not just to save ourselves, but to stop a war based on a lie. Outside their cell window, the alien city glowed in the gathering dusk. Somewhere up there, Earth was just another star in the sky. Frank made a silent promise to that distant point of light. He would find a way home and reveal the truth. Alan clutched his stomach and fell to the floor of the cell. He groaned loudly, his face twisted in pain. The noise brought two Zeltarian guards rushing to the door. What's wrong with him? One guard demanded, activating the energy field that served as a door. Frank knelt beside Alan. He needs medical help. Something's very wrong. The second guard stepped into the cell, weapon raised. This could be a trick. Alan suddenly convulsed, his back arching. White foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. The guard moved closer, bending down to examine him. In one swift motion, Alan grabbed the guard's arm and pulled him down. Frank tackled the second guard. After a brief struggle, both aliens lay unconscious on the floor. Alan sat up, wiping the fake foam from his mouth. That soap from the washroom worked perfectly. Quick thinking, Frank said, grabbing a weapon from one of the guards. Lisa, can you get us to a hangar bay? Lisa nodded. I memorized part of the station layout from the data system. Follow me. The crew moved swiftly through the corridors of the Zeltarian space station. They hid in storage rooms when patrols passed. Once they had to squeeze into a maintenance shaft when a group of officers approached. This way, Lisa whispered, pointing to a junction. The hangar should be 2 levels down. As they hurried down a ramp, Diane paused near a communications terminal. Wait, she said. Let me try something. Her fingers moved over the alien controls. The others watched nervously. What are you doing? Frank asked, keeping watch on the corridor. Their language has patterns, Diane explained. During my shifts in the cell, I studied the symbols on the screen Lisa accessed. I think I can. Yes. The screen changed, showing rows of Zeltarian text. Diane's eyes scanned quickly. Frank, they're transmitting battle plans. The Zeltarian fleet is mobilizing to attack Earth. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor. They've discovered we're missing, Frank said. Run. They raced through the station, no longer trying to stay hidden. Guards appeared at the end of a corridor. Frank fired the alien weapon. Blue energy bolts hit the wall, forcing the guards to take cover. Through here, Lisa called, pointing to a side passage. The passage led to a large chamber filled with small transport vessels. Zeltarian workers scattered as the humans burst in. That one, Frank pointed to a sleek, arrow-shaped ship. It looks like a scout vessel, fast and lightly armed. They rushed to the ship. Lisa worked on the door controls while the others kept watch. With a hiss, the door slid open. Everyone in, Frank ordered. The interior was cramped but functional. Lisa jumped into the pilot's seat, studying the controls. Can you fly it? Frank asked. Lisa nodded. The basics are similar to our simulators. Engines, navigation, shields. Alarms continued to blare. Through the viewport, they saw armed Zeltarians entering the hangar. Figure it out fast, Frank said. Lisa activated the engines. The ship hummed to life, lifting slightly off the hangar floor. Weapons fire struck the hull. Hang on, Lisa called. The ship surged forward, crashing through the hangar's energy field and into open space. Behind them, the Zeltarian station grew smaller. They're pursuing, Alan reported, looking at a sensor display. 6 fighter ships. Diane worked at the communications console. I'm picking up their transmissions. They're ordering us to surrender or be destroyed. Lisa pushed the engines harder. Stars blurred as the ship accelerated. Where are we going? Frank's expression was grim. We need to reach Earth before the Zeltarian fleet. We have to warn them. There's more, Diane said, still listening to the Zeltarian communications. They're calling for their main battle group. It's already on the move. How long until they reach Earth? Frank asked. Lisa checked the navigation system. The Zeltarians have faster ships than ours. If they're already mobilized, they could reach Earth in 4 days. And us. In this ship, maybe 5 days, if we push the engines to their limits. Frank stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, unaware of the danger heading its way. A war based on a terrible misunderstanding was about to begin, and they were the only ones who knew the truth. Then we pushed the engines beyond their limits, Frank said. Somehow, we have to get there first. Admiral Karen Wright stood before a large display screen in Earth Defense Command. Red dots representing ships moved into defensive positions around Earth. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and worry lines creased her forehead. Still no contact with the horizon, she asked. A young officer shook his head. No, Admiral. No response to any of our signals for 5 days now. Karen tapped her fingers on the console. The Horizon was Earth's best ship with its best crew. Frank Williams was a careful commander. Something had gone very wrong. Prepare a rescue fleet, she ordered. 3 heavy cruisers and support vessels. Admiral, another officer called out. We're detecting an unidentified ship entering the system. It's small, moving at extreme speed. Karen straightened. Weapons status. Minimal weapons. But its engine signature is strange. Not human, not like anything in our database. The atmosphere in the command center grew tense. Everyone remembered the stories of first contact gone wrong from old movies and books. No one wanted those stories to come true. Full alert, Karen ordered. All defense platforms activated. The small alien ship slowed as it approached Earth's outer defense perimeter. Suddenly, the communications officer jumped in his seat. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. It's Commander Williams. Karen's eyes widened. On screen, Frank's tired face appeared on the main display. He looked exhausted, with several days' growth of beard on his face. Admiral Wright, he said. Thank God we made it. Earth is in danger. The Zeltarians believe we attacked them. They're sending a battle fleet. They'll be here within hours. Karen listened as Frank quickly explained what had happened. The misunderstanding. Their escape. The evidence of a third party manipulating events. We need to prepare for their arrival. Frank finished. But we can't start shooting. This is all a mistake. Karen's expression was grim. Understood, Commander. Approach coordinates are being transmitted to you. Welcome home. 2 hours later, Frank and his crew stood in the briefing room of Earth Defense Command. Military leaders and government officials filled the seats. Many looked skeptical as Frank explained the situation again. So you want us to hold fire when an alien battle fleet arrives in our system? Asked General Peterson, his bushy eyebrows drawn together. Based on your theory that someone else attacked them. It's not just a theory, Lisa said. She displayed the data she had managed to save. These energy readings don't match our weapons or the Zeltarian defense system. Karen studied the information. It's not much to go on. But it's enough to warrant caution, Frank argued. If we start shooting, we'll confirm their belief that we're hostile. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. Multiple ships detected entering the system. An officer shouted, Zeltarian energy signatures. Everyone rushed to the command center. On the main screen, a dozen alien ships appeared, moving toward Earth in attack formation. They've sent scouts ahead of their main fleet, Frank said. Karen turned to her weapons officer. Defensive posture only. Do not fire unless fired upon. The tension grew as the Zeltarian scouts approached. Suddenly, one of the alien ships fired. The energy beam struck an Earth defense satellite, destroying it instantly. Return fire, General Peterson demanded. Karen hesitated, looking at Frank. He nodded grimly. We have to defend ourselves, but minimal force. Target their weapons systems only, Karen ordered. Earth's defense platforms fired. 2 Zeltarian scouts were damaged. The others pulled back, but remained in the system. Admiral, the communications officer called. We're receiving a message from the Zeltarian command ship. Supreme Commander Vrax's face appeared on screen. Humans, your attack on our scouts confirmed your hostile intentions. Surrender your planet or face destruction when our main fleet arrives. Frank stepped forward. Commander Vrax, please listen. We need to talk. There's evidence that neither of us is responsible for what happened. Vrax's yellow eyes narrowed. More human lies. Prepare for war. The transmission ended. Karen turned to Frank. You have 6 hours before their main fleet arrives. Convince me there's another option besides fighting. Frank looked at his tired crew. Lisa, work with Earth's scientists. We need to find proof of who really attacked the Zeltarians. Diane, keep monitoring their communications. He turned back to Karen. Admiral, let me try one more diplomatic solution before this becomes a full-scale war. Lisa hunched over a computer terminal in Earth's main science lab. Screens around her displayed the energy readings she had stolen from the Zeltarian station. Earth scientists worked nearby, running tests and comparing data. There, she said, pointing to a pattern on the screen. That energy signature appears right before the Zeltarians detected our supposed attack. Dr. Paul Reed, Earth's leading energy weapons expert, leaned closer. It's definitely not human technology. The frequency is all wrong. And the Zeltarians thought it came from us. Another scientist asked. Lisa nodded. The source was positioned between our ships. From their perspective, it looked like we fired first. In another part of the command center, Alan studied biological readings from the Zeltarian ships. His eyes suddenly widened. Frank. He called across the room. I found something strange. Frank hurried over. Time was running short. The Zeltarian main fleet would arrive in less than 4 hours. What is it? Frank asked. Alan pointed to his screen. I've been analyzing the biological signatures from the Zeltarian scouts. Most match what we'd expect from their species, but there's something else. Look at these readings. The screen showed unusual life sign patterns on one of the Zeltarian ships. Those aren't Zeltarian, Alan explained. There's something completely different. And here's the interesting part. The energy pattern from these life forms matches the mystery energy signature Lisa found. Frank's heart raced. You're saying there are aliens on the Zeltarian ships? Aliens that might have caused this conflict? It looks that way, Alan said. And based on these readings, they've been there for some time, possibly as observers or infiltrators. Frank rushed to find Admiral Wright. She was in a strategy meeting with her top officers. Admiral, Frank interrupted. We have evidence of a third species involved in this conflict. He quickly explained what Alan had discovered. Karen's expression grew grave. If you're right, she said, then both our peoples are being manipulated into a war. We need to show this evidence to the Zeltarians, Frank urged. Karen nodded. I'll arrange a communication channel. Before she could act, Diane burst into the room. Commander, Admiral, you need to see this. They followed her to the sensor station. The main screen showed new energy readings from the edge of the solar system. More ships? Karen asked. Diane shook her head. Not Zeltarian. These energy signatures matched the unknown readings Lisa identified. Whoever fired at the Zeltarian defense system is here. Frank studied the readings. How many ships? At least 20, Diane replied. They were hiding behind the 7th planet. Our deep space sensors just detected them when they started moving. Karen turned to her communications officer. Contact the Zeltarian scout ships. They need to see this. The officer worked at his console. They're not responding, Admiral. They've raised shields, and are powering weapons. They think it's a trick, Frank realized. Just then, Lisa and Alan arrived with their findings. Lisa carried a data pad showing her analysis. "We've identified the third species," Lisa said breathlessly. Cross-referencing with alien biology databases and energy signatures, they matched descriptions of a race called the Voracians. Alan continued, "According to what little information we have, they're an ancient predatory species. They don't build or create. They take. They've been known to engineer conflicts between emerging civilizations." "Why?" Karen asked. "So they can scavenge the remains after both sides destroy each other," Alan explained. "They're like vultures, but they help create the corpses they feed on." The tactical officer interrupted. "Admiral, the unknown ships are accelerating toward Earth. They'll arrive just before the Zeltarian main fleet." Frank looked at the display showing both the approaching Voratian ships and the positions of the Zeltarian scouts. A terrible understanding dawned on him. "That's their plan," he said quietly. "They want the Zeltarians to see them attacking Earth. When the Zeltarian main fleet arrives, they'll think we've called in allies. The war will escalate beyond control." Karen turned to her officers. "We need to warn the Zeltarians before it's too late." Frank stepped forward. "Let me take a shuttle directly to the Zeltarian command ship. If I can speak to Vrax face-to-face and show him this evidence, maybe he'll listen." Karen considered for a moment, then nodded. "Go. Take your crew. This may be our last chance for peace." Frank stared out the shuttle window at the massive Zeltarian command ship. The vessel was huge, at least 5 times the size of Earth's largest cruiser. Its hull was dark gray with glowing blue lines running along its surface. "Are they responding to our messages?" Frank asked. Diane shook her head. "Nothing yet, but they haven't fired on us either." The small human shuttle approached slowly. Lisa, Alan, and 2 Earth security officers made up the rest of the team. They carried no weapons, only data pads with the evidence about the Voratians. "They're scanning us," Lisa reported, watching the sensor readings. A voice suddenly came through the communication system. "Human vessel, you will stop and prepare to be boarded." Frank leaned toward the microphone. "We come under a flag of truce. We have important information for Supreme Commander Vrax. Information about a common enemy." There was a long pause. Frank exchanged worried glances with his crew. Time was running out. The Voratian ships were getting closer to Earth, and the Zeltarian main fleet wasn't far behind. Finally, the voice returned. "Proceed to Docking Bay 7. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction." The shuttle eased into the docking bay of the Zeltarian ship. Armed guards waited as the humans emerged, hands raised to show they were unarmed. "I need to speak with Commander Vrax," Frank said. "It's urgent." The guards surrounded them and led them through long corridors. The inside of the Zeltarian ship was surprisingly beautiful, with curved walls and soft lighting. It reminded Frank of pictures he had seen of ancient sea creatures from Earth's oceans. They were taken to a large chamber. Supreme Commander Vrax sat on a raised platform, surrounded by other Zeltarian officers, his yellow eyes fixed on Frank with obvious distrust. "You have 5 minutes to explain why I shouldn't execute you as spies," Vrax said. Frank stepped forward. "We've discovered who really attacked your defense system. The same ones who destroyed your colony 73 years ago." This caught Vrax's attention. He leaned forward slightly. Frank nodded to Lisa, who activated her datapad. A hologram appeared, showing the energy signatures and biological readings they had collected. "They're called the Voratians," Frank explained. "They're manipulating both our peoples into a war." Vrax studied the data. "This could be fabricated." "Check your own ships," Alan suggested. "You have Voratian observers aboard. They appear Zeltarian, but their biological signatures are different." One of Vrax's officers whispered something in his ear. Vrax's expression changed slightly. "We have detected unusual readings from certain crew members," he admitted. "But this doesn't prove." Suddenly, The ship shook violently. Alarms blared throughout the chamber. "We're under attack," a Zeltarian officer shouted. "Earth betrays us even now," another yelled. "No," Frank insisted. "Check your sensors. It's not Earth attacking you." Vrax received reports from his crew. His eyes widened. Unknown vessels, 23 of them. They're firing on both human and Zeltarian ships. On a large view screen, they could see new ships appearing. They were dark, almost insect-like in appearance. The Voratian vessels fired on everything in their path. "They're forcing our hand," Frank said urgently. "They want us to fight each other." As they watched, a massive energy beam from a Voratian ship struck the shuttle bay where the humans had arrived. The entire section of the Zeltarian command ship shuddered. "Our shuttle is destroyed," Lisa reported grimly. Frank turned to Vrax. "Commander, we need to work together. This is what the Voratians want, for us to destroy each other while they watch from the shadows." Vrax stood, looking at the screen where both human and Zeltarian ships were under attack. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he turned to his officers. "Contact our fleet. Tell them." He paused, seeming to struggle with the order. "Tell them to coordinate with the human vessels against these new attackers." He looked at Frank. "If you are lying, human, this will be the end of your species. And if I'm telling the truth," Frank replied, "it could be the beginning of an alliance that saves us both." Another explosion rocked the ship. Vrax steadied himself against his chair. "We need to get to the bridge," he said. "Your people know these Voratians better than we do." Frank nodded, a small spark of hope burning in his chest. As they hurried from the chamber, he knew the real battle was just beginning. The bridge of the Zeltarian command ship buzzed with activity. Frank stood beside Supreme Commander Vrax, watching as the battle unfolded on the main view screen. Human and Zeltarian ships fought together against the Voratian vessels. "Their shields are incredibly strong," Vrax noted as another attack barely damaged a Voratian ship. Lisa worked at a Zeltarian console that had been adapted for her use. "They're using some kind of energy-absorbing technology. The more we hit them, the stronger they become." On Earth, Admiral Wright coordinated the human defense. Her face appeared on a communication screen. "Commander Williams, we're taking heavy losses," she reported. 4 of our cruisers are damaged. The Voratians seem to be targeting our power systems." Frank turned to Ellen, who was analyzing Voratian biology data. "Any weaknesses?" Helen looked up from his work. "Maybe. Their ships seem to be partly organic, almost like an extension of their bodies. They feel pain when their vessels are damaged." "How does that help us?" Vrax asked. "Pain can be distracting," Alan explained. "If we hit them hard enough in one area, they might drop their shields elsewhere to redirect energy." Vrax considered this, then barked orders to his fleet. The Zeltarian ships began concentrating their fire on specific sections of the Voratian vessels. The human ships followed their lead. The tactic worked. As the Voratians shifted their defenses, vulnerable spots appeared. Combined human and Zeltarian attacks destroyed 3 Voratian ships in quick succession. "They're pulling back," Diane announced, monitoring communications. A new signal came through. The view screen changed to show a Voratian for the first time. Its face was gray and angular, with 6 small eyes arranged in a circle. When it spoke, its voice was cold and metallic. "Humans, Zeltarians, your resistance is unexpected but meaningless. We have fed on 100 species before you. We will feed on 100 more after." Frank stepped forward. "Why attack us? Why start this war?" The Voratian made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Young species are predictable. So quick to fight, so slow to understand. Your conflict feeds us. Your destruction strengthens us. We won't fight each other," Frank declared. "We know what you've done." The Voratian seemed to smile, though its face barely moved. "To you. We destroyed the Zeltarian colony years ago. We waited patiently for them to find someone to blame. You humans arrived right on schedule. Vrax's fists clenched at his sides. Frank could feel the commander's anger radiating like heat. "You killed thousands of my people," Vrax said, his voice tight with rage. "And we will kill millions more," the Voratian replied calmly. "Unless." It paused, all 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "Unless what?" Frank asked, though he feared the answer. "Humans. We offer you survival. Give us the Zeltarians, all of them. Help us destroy their worlds. In return, Earth will be spared." Frank felt sick. He looked at Vrax, then at his crew members. Diane, Lisa, and Alan stared back at him, their expressions reflecting his own disgust. Without hesitation, Frank turned back to the screen. "No." The Voratian tilted its head. "No. You would die for aliens you just met. Aliens who were ready to destroy your world hours ago." Frank stepped closer to the screen. His voice grew stronger with each word. "You attacked our home," he said. "Not just Earth. You attacked the Zeltarian colony. You attacked their defense system. You attacked all of us. Homes aren't just places. They're people. They're the right to exist without fear." He gestured to the Zeltarians around him. "These people were ready to fight us because they thought we threatened their home. Now we know who really did, and we'll fight together to protect what's ours." The Voratian's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die together." The transmission ended. Immediately, the Voratians resumed their attack with renewed fury. Vrax looked at Frank with new respect. "Your words, they were unexpected." Frank nodded. "We might have different worlds, different bodies, different ways of thinking, but we understand what it means to have a home worth fighting for." A Zeltarian officer called out, "Commander Vrax, the Voratians have changed their attack pattern. They're focusing all fire on our command ship." The ship shuddered as multiple impacts hit their shields. Vrax turned to his crew. "Full power to forward shields. All weapons, target the lead Voratian vessel." Frank joined Lisa at her console. "We need a way to break through their defenses permanently. Any ideas?" Lisa looked up, a determined expression on her face. "Actually, yes. But it's going to take both human and Zeltarian technology to make it work." 6 months later, Frank stood in a large chamber aboard the newly commissioned USV Concordia. The ship was unlike any built before, a blend of human and Zeltarian technology. Its sleek hull contained the best of both worlds, from Earth's advanced computer systems to Zeltarian energy management. The chamber was filled with humans and Zeltarians, gathered for the ship's launch ceremony. Frank, now wearing the uniform of an ambassador rather than a commander, watched as Admiral Wright and Supreme Commander Vrax entered together. "Hard to believe we were ready to destroy each other not long ago," Lisa said, standing beside Frank. She wore a science officer's uniform with both human and Zeltarian insignia. Frank nodded. "Fear makes enemies of strangers. Knowledge turns enemies into friends." Admiral Wright stepped to the podium. "Today marks 6 months since the Battle of Earth, when our species fought together against the Voratian threat. Although we drove them back, we know they will return. They have fed on conflict between young species for thousands of years." Vrax joined her at the podium. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd. "The Voratians believed we would destroy each other. They were wrong. Instead, we have created something new. An alliance stronger than either of us alone." Alan sat with a group of scientists, human and Zeltarian, working side by side. They had spent months studying Voratian technology from the ships destroyed in the battle. Diane stood with communications officers, perfecting the translation systems that now allowed smooth conversation between the species. Wright continued, "The USV Concordia will be the first of our joint exploration vessels. Its mission is to seek out other civilizations that may have been targeted by the Voratians, to warn them, to invite them to join our alliance." Frank remembered the terrible days after the battle. 37 human ships lost, 22 Zeltarian vessels destroyed, thousands dead on both sides. Yet from that tragedy, something remarkable had grown. A memorial wall stood at the back of the chamber. Names of the fallen from both species were engraved there, a testament to their sacrifice. Frank visited it often, running his fingers over the names of friends lost. Ambassador Williams, Wright called. "Would you like to say a few words?" Frank walked to the podium. He looked out at the faces watching him, different colors, different shapes, but with the same hope in their eyes. 6 months ago, I stood on a Zaltarian ship and spoke words that came from my heart. You attacked our home. At that moment, I wasn't just talking about Earth. I was talking about all the places we live, all the people we love. I was talking about the right to exist without fear. He paused, looking at the Zaltarians in the crowd. Now we share that home. We protect it together. The stars are vast and filled with wonders, but also dangers. The Voratians have preyed on division for thousands of years. Our unity is something they never expected and cannot understand. Frank gestured to the view screen showing the beautiful new ship docked outside. The Concordia will carry our message to the stars. That we are stronger together than apart. That difference doesn't mean division. That home isn't just a planet or a system, but the community we build together. After the ceremony, Frank stood by a viewport, watching stars shine against the blackness of space. Vrax joined him. "The Voratians will return," Vrax said quietly. "Yes," Frank agreed, "but we'll be ready." "Your words that day," Vrax said, "about our homes. They changed everything." Frank smiled. Sometimes the right words at the right moment can shake the stars. The next day, the Concordia departed Earth on its maiden voyage. Its crew, a mix of humans and Zaltarians, worked together in perfect harmony. Frank sat in his quarters, recording a personal log. "We don't know what we'll find out there," he said. "New friends, perhaps, maybe more enemies, but we go together, stronger than we ever were alone." He looked out his window at the passing stars. The Voratians thought they understood us. They thought they could predict our behavior, make us destroy each other. They were wrong. They attacked our home, and in doing so, they forced us to build a better one. Together. As the Concordia jumped to faster than light speed, the message of human-Zaltarian alliance spread across the galaxy. A message of unity that would echo among the stars for generations to come.